All right, the price of Bitcoin may be a bit boring right now, but the development happening within the ecosystem is anything but. And today I'm going to go into Spark. This is a long time coming. Let's jump in. Okay, so we had this whole proliferation of Bitcoin L2s last summer, right? And even over the last year. And a lot of those were basically Ethereum rollups with some sort of tenuous tie to Bitcoin, right? And so what I'm excited to cover today with Spark is a real Bitcoin native L2. And before we even get into Spark, it's helpful to think about, well, what even are the problems that we're trying to solve? And it gets to some of the UX challenges of Lightning. If you follow this channel for any period of time, you've seen tons and tons of tutorials that I've done on how the Lightning Network works, different wallets, self-custodial, custodial, trade-offs, etc. And make no mistake, the Lightning Network is fantastic. It is an incredible piece of technology. It makes Bitcoin payments instant, super scalable, and super cheap. But as we've evolved as an ecosystem and community, I think we've realized that it's not quite the silver bullet solution for that sort of last mile payment use case. And you've seen people use analogies like Bitcoin L1, the blockchain, is sort of like heavy freight, maybe in, a train car, right? It's pretty slow moving, but you're moving a ton of value. Lightning is maybe like road highways, right? But then you ultimately need some of these last mile delivery solutions to get payments into the small neighborhoods and cul-de-sacs and rural areas, right? That's sort of the analogy that I think we've seen become really apt. Because if you think about using the Lightning Network in a self-custodial way, which is critical, right? If we're, serious about any of this, don't trust, verify, all these important elements of self-sovereignty, self-custody is a must, but self-custody with Lightning implies a whole lot. It implies that you're running a Lightning node, either in the cloud or on device. There are some clever workarounds that we've seen using atomic swaps, but for the most part, using the Lightning Network in a self-custodial fashion means you're running a node, and that node needs to be online for you to receive payments. Furthermore, it also imposes the challenge of each individual user needing to manage their channels. Now, if you're brand new to Lightning, take a look at my Lightning Network playlist on the channel. I go through, sort of Lightning 101. How does this network work? What are payment channels, right? But in a nutshell, you need to have these payment channels established for you to be able to send or receive value in a self-custodial fashion on the Lightning Network. And while there are no doubt many users for whom that's a totally acceptable trade-off, like I want to be as self-sovereign as possible. And if that's you, there's great solutions out there. I've done tutorials on Zeus Wallet as an example where, you're managing your own channels and that's directly happening on device. I've done tutorials on Alby Hub, which is a great sort of cloud-based option. There's Voltage, there's all these different services. So you can do this for sure. But when you think about the masses, your grandma, like, are they really going to run and manage channels? The answer is no, right? And with my company, Joltz, we've built a lot of different self-custodial tech around the Lightning space. So that's the problem that we're looking to solve. And so as we can see, the TLDR for Spark is it is a new Bitcoin L2 that is built on top of the concept of state chains. For those of you that have been around, you may recall Mercury Layer, right? Mercury Wallet, I think that's still around. But state chains is an interesting concept. It is an off-chain protocol. So we're able to get a lot more scalability by not being, on-chain. But the way it works is actually by transferring the private keys for that particular UTXO. Lightning is extraordinarily good for scaling payments, but what it doesn't do as well is scaling the UTXO, right? The unspent transaction output, the coins themselves. And so state chains is an interesting take on that. And what Spark has done is built a lot of stuff on top of that to make what I think is a really interesting breakthrough in terms of this trade-off of like UX and trust minimization, right? So if you think about Lightning as being the most sort of trust minimized way to instantly send Bitcoin, I think Spark, as we will discuss, does have some additional trust assumptions versus that of Lightning. But then you could argue that the UX upside that Spark provides and solves for, you know, for a lot of people, I think will more than make up for that additional cost. So at its core, it uses this Frost-based shared signing protocol. I will put this link in the description down below if you want to go check out docs.spark.money. I would encourage you to take a look. It lists out a lot of really helpful information. And basically, as we can see, like the Lightning Network, Spark transactions work by delegating ownership of on-chain UTXOs between parties. So there's a sort of common concept here where, right, with Lightning, I'm locking up a UTXO with my peer of that particular payment channel from which we can move, value back and forth as many times as we want and sort of route value across other connected peers on the network. In this case, Spark introduces a set of signers. These are called Spark operators. We'll talk about the different roles here in just a moment. And they are responsible for working with the users to spend funds. So in a crude way, think of it like a multisig, right? You've got this Spark operator and you, the user, who have this sort of shared key, right? So the Spark operator can't steal your funds, right? And no other third party can steal your funds, but you have this sort of collaborative method of spending funds. And so let's define some sort of key roles in this setup. We can go to this core concepts page, right? So you've got the state chain itself. This is the off-chain protocol at the sort of highest level. You have this Spark entity concept, which is a group of operators. And the Spark operators themselves are the entities that are participating in transferring ownership of these UTXOs. You'll also see layered on this concept of a Spark service provider. And I think what we will likely see is that most Spark operators will also simultaneously be Spark service providers. But as the ecosystem grows, maybe you see, one or the other. But an SSP, similar to a Lightning service provider, is making certain operations on the network easier. In this particular case, making it easy for you to deposit and withdraw value from Spark, and also optionally making it so that you can easily interoperate Lightning. So you can pay in a Lightning invoice, so you can send and receive to regular Lightning invoices from Spark as well, which is really nice. And then, critically, you have an exit transaction. So you have this unilateral exit, which is such an important feature for any L2 that really wants to call itself, a proper L2, right? This means that even if the operator is not cooperative, you, the user, can still withdraw without permission the value that you hold. There's some more information on the trust model here. It operates with this one of N trust model. We see that concept show up in things like BitVM and a lot of the work being done there. Quickly, there's this excellent resource, bitcoinlayers.org. I'm actually not sure if this is still being actively maintained or not. But if you go to bitcoinlayers.org and then continue on to this site, you'll see a really excellent rundown of the different trust assumptions of, say, Spark versus something like Lightning. You've got Arcade here, one of the Arc implementations that's also being put together and under review. So I would encourage you to check that out as well. So again, I'm going to leave it to you to sort of dig in as you see fit. But ultimately, what this allows us to achieve in terms of benefits is you get instant transactions. So that's sort of like table stakes, right? You have to have, instant transactions. It's crazy cheap. In fact, right now, Spark transactions, like Spark to Spark transactions, are completely free. It does indicate in their FAQ here that you will have perhaps a small flat fee. This could be like a penny per transaction coming in the next, 6 to 12 months. And there are some other relevant fees to be aware of, right? If you're on Spark and you're trying to, for example, send out value to Lightning, there is this additional fee in addition to the sort of routing fee that you would normally pay for a Lightning transaction. Lightning coming into Spark similarly. So again, we may see these fees sort of shift around, but all in all, very, very sort of cost competitive when you think about some of the other solutions that are out there. It's self-custodial, right? Your keys, your coins. There are those trust assumptions that we discussed, but again, for the ability to have this Lightning interoperability and not have to deal with channels and not have to worry about the offline receive problem, I think it's pretty compelling. You do also get tokens on Bitcoin, so you can have assets like stablecoins issued on Bitcoin. What's also pretty cool, and I won't get into this as much, but you've got this BTKN protocol. Okay, this is the asset protocol within Spark. This was a fork of the LRC20 token standard and meta protocol that we saw, I think it was summer of 24. And so LightSpark in this case has forked that and continued developing the BTK, what is now called the BTKN protocol. It's got some nice features. As an issuer, a lot of people will always say, oh, well, stablecoins are evil because, you know, you can freeze them and this and that. It's like, sure, at some level, but what's cool about BTKN is that the issuer can elect to make the asset freezable or unfreezable. Now, a lot of the main big sort of issuers are, of course, going to probably make things, you know, freezable, but that is very, very cool nonetheless for issuers and developers to have that optionality. I think that is key. A lot of people have also pointed out, oh, well, you know, Spark is this sort of surveillance spyware. It's developed by LightSpark, this big corporation, you know, and whatnot. And so it's been really encouraging for me to see that they're prioritizing privacy as well. So very soon here, you're going to have private transactions that are achievable on Spark. Again, it comes down to the developer. And I love that sort of optionality first mindset that they're building into this. But ultimately, what you end up getting is really fast, really cheap Bitcoin and stablecoin transactions. Soon we will also have this concept of gasless stablecoin transactions, which basically just means that you're paying the transaction fees in the unit of whatever it is that you're sending, which is a huge problem when you think about, you know, other crypto ecosystems. If I'm on Ethereum and I'm trying to send USDT to someone, I have to also have Ethereum, the gas token. Now, there's all sorts of solutions for that now where basically someone else is, you know, paying the or sponsoring the, you know, the transaction and paying those fees, but that will also get abstracted away on Spark as well. So anyway, that's a kind of quick rundown of the protocol itself, some of the key benefits that we get with it. Again, I would invite you to really dig into the docs and the trade-offs. But the next question is like, well, what is going on within the ecosystem? What have we seen thus far getting built? This video is made possible by Bitcoin trading cards, and I am pumped to have them as the first sponsor on my channel. I met Aladdin and the team back at Pacific Bitcoin 2022, and I'm not gonna lie, at the time I thought, okay, cool, a quirky little Bitcoin project, but little could I have imagined at the time how this project would capture imaginations. I've personally used these to orange pill people that I care about in my life. The art is stunning and features Bitcoin artists all around the world. You get high quality Bitcoin education on topics like economics and freedom as part of that, which makes this, as you can imagine, a really special project for me. And I'm not gonna lie, it makes you want to collect these. The community behind this is also truly insane. And I think they have a real shot at bringing Bitcoin to the mainstream. So if you're curious to check them out, head over to btc-tc.com where you can find the different series they've launched. And hey, if you do end up snagging some cards, you'll also get some Bitcoin rewards back on your purchase, powered by Joltz. Here's to ripping packs and stacking sats. And I would say it's been quite encouraging. We've seen a bunch of different wallets. So starting one here with SparkSat. This is a nice one because it's web-based. So, it gives me a chance to just sort of show some of those conceptual features actually implemented. So you can see, you got your nice little sats balance here. You can deposit in different ways. You can deposit on-chain to Spark. You can also deposit via Lightning, which is powerful, right? You can sort of instantly get into Spark and, even out of it if you're withdrawing over Lightning. If I come back to the dashboard and I say receive value, you'll also see now that you have this fixed static Spark address that you can send to, formatted as Spark1, blah, 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 blah. There was this SP1 formatting, but I believe they're going to deprecate that because it sort of conflicts with like the silent payments kind of format. So Spark1, blah, 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 blah is what we'll see going forward. Or again, I could create a regular Lightning invoice and have someone pay this invoice. A normal, Lightning wallet that doesn't know anything about Spark can pay value, and I receive that onto my Spark balance. So pretty cool stuff. You can see they've got all sorts of, options here. We've seen some of the big wallets like Xverse. I think this is probably one of the biggest wallets, if not the biggest, in the Bitcoin ecosystem focused on Bitcoin. You can download Xverse either as a Chrome extension, which I've got up here, and you can see they've also integrated Spark, right? So when you go to receive, you can say Spark and BTKN, and that gives you your handy Spark address. So Xverse has that now built into their browser extension and their mobile wallet, which is very, very cool. And we're going to see a lot more, built into that over time. BitBit is another one. You can get this as a browser extension. What's really cool about BitBit, and I've got this here open as well. You've got a really clean, Lightning and Spark wallet here. And you've probably, if you're anywhere on X, you may have already seen some of the tipping that's happening via BitBit. So this is very sort of Nostr-like in its capability. You can tip people on X for them to then come and claim as part of their BitBit. So that's a really nice additional use case for something like Spark, where you have this sort of offline receive property. You could create a BitBit wallet tied to your X profile and send and receive tips on X. It's pretty cool there as well. Many of you will be familiar with Wallet of Satoshi, right? This is, I think, by far probably the largest, sort of standalone Lightning wallet. It is a custodial wallet, but now via Spark, it has a self-custodial option, right? And way of working with it. Wallet of Satoshi, notably, as you may recall, exited the US market temporarily when all the sort of crackdowns were coming down, and it wasn't exactly clear who was going to be money transmitter stuff and all this crazy things. So Wallet of Satoshi has now re-entered the US market by having the self-custodial option that Spark affords. So pretty cool. And for a lot of these, I'm going to be doing follow-up tutorials that go more in depth into this. I just wanted to give a tour of the landscape here in today's video. You've got Blitz Wallet as well. Real simple, clean, self-custodial Bitcoin and Lightning wallet that uses Spark for its Lightning interoperability. So that's kind of on the wallet side. We've got a lot of great infrastructure also being built within the ecosystem. A bit of a self-show. So those of you that know, I'm the co-founder of Joltz. We've built a whole variety of different tooling and infrastructure around Lightning, around stablecoins on Lightning. And with our latest product, we've built a cross-chain bridge for Spark. So all those individuals, and I know that's not necessarily a lot of you watching this, but for the many people who have, value in USDT or whatever on Ethereum, on Solana, on Tron, blah, 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 you can now bridge that over to Spark super quickly. This takes about 30 seconds. I could go do USDT, Ethereum, USDC, wrapped Bitcoin. We've got Ethereum and Base currently supported. We'll have a bunch of other networks here getting rolled out over the next couple of days. But we need to bring all the liquidity home to Bitcoin. All roads lead back to Bitcoin. And we're hoping that the Joltz bridge can be a key part of that. We also have seen some really interesting developments with Tether's WDK, their wallet development kit. This is something you've seen them now posting a lot about. I think this is actually going to be formally launched this week in Lugano, the Plan B Forum happening in Lugano this week. And so what is this? This is an open source development kit for developers to spin up self-custodial wallets in their applications. This is what Rumble, by the way, so Tether, took a huge stake in Rumble, and that's what they're going to use to give creators self-custodial wallets, right? And if you look, what's really interesting, so if you go to the About WDK section here, and a lot of you may have seen this already, but if you come down to the networks that are supported, you'll see, Bitcoin, you've got Ethereum and EVM stuff, of course, Tron, which, has a ton of stablecoin activity still, Solana, and then Spark and Lightning. So Tether has selected Spark for the Lightning piece to enable WDK to support Lightning. I think that's super interesting. Does that mean we see USDT natively on Spark? I don't know. There's, Taproot assets still in the running for that. There's RGB in the running for that. Maybe we get it everywhere. Who knows? but that is nonetheless really, really interesting as well. Breeze, you've also got, is coming out and has come out with a new nodeless SDK built on Spark. Again, these are all just different flavors of enabling developers to bring Lightning functionality into their apps using, in this case, Spark as that sort of interoperability layer. We've had Braille that has issued USDB, so USD Bitcoin. This is now live on Spark. This is pretty interesting because Braille is a sort of fully, regulated, compliant, US-based stablecoin issuer. They have this sort of stablecoin as a service platform, right? And so this is interesting. There's going to be, I think, some interesting announcements coming soon about this that would help drive this flywheel of getting liquidity coming back from other ecosystems into Spark. That's all I'll say for now. So that's kind of on the infrastructure side. And then lastly, we've got all sorts of different sort of marketplace and trading kind of venues spinning up around Spark as well. Luminix has a whole launch pad that they built around Spark, and you're going to see token trading there as well. UTXO.fun, sort of going after the kind of pump.fun in the Solana ecosystem that we've seen be hugely successful. Sats Terminal as well has rolled out some functionality around Spark. So it's pretty exciting stuff to see. Again, as a next step, I'll definitely be covering more in-depth tutorials of some of these different tools. But for now, I wanted to at least introduce the protocol, a little bit of how it works, and some of the goings on in terms of builders within the community. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts. What are your thoughts on Spark? What are your maybe points of skepticism still? What questions do you have? What comments do you have? Have you used any of these tools? Let me know in the comments down below. But I hope you found this valuable and insightful. If you did, you already know what to do. Give this video a like. Use the share feature underneath this video. That really does help get this to a broader audience. And if you were so enamored with this content, you want to donate to a pleb, which really does help me continue to make these videos, you can do so in a number of ways. There's the YouTube Super Thanks feature built directly into YouTube, or my preference, you can zip some sats my way on the Lightning Network to my Lightning address, ragermajor.com, or you can use BitBit and go find my X profile. It's Ian_Major. Maybe try tipping me there. That would be a cool little exercise coming out of today's video. And for those of you that want to get in touch with me one-on-one, I am working with a number of clients on all sorts of topics around Bitcoin payments, Bitcoin self-custody, running a node, Bitcoin privacy, different things like that. You can reach out to me at vita.io/IanMajor. But for now, we'll go ahead and leave things here. As a reminder, every sat counts, especially if it can move instantly and in a self-custodial fashion. And until next time, my friends, I'll see you then.